Good morning and welcome to Bloor Street United and St. Matthew's United Churches as we gather in this place to be met by God's Spirit, and to be transformed by love for the work of justice in the world that God so loves. Whether you are here on a faith journey of whatever kind, whatever questions you carry, you are welcome here. Whether you love whomever you love, whatever your gender, identity, or sexual orientation, your ethnicity, race, ability, you are welcome here. Today is St. Patrick's Day, the one Saint's Day that United Church folks do in fact observe, as well as being the fifth Sunday in Lent. It's the Sunday before Holy Week begins on Palm Sunday next week. Our Lenten journey has been many things to each of us, I suspect. We have questions. We may feel we should have done more to give time to this season of introspection, of evaluation of our priorities and our values in life as we're living it. Today, let us listen to a story of Jesus that we will read of Jesus while he is on his own, that first Lenten journey, to discover how it guides us back to pay attention anew to our own story. Our stories, your stories, matter. It's why we come to this place of conversation and wayfinding, seeking understanding, and seeking community with others, finding acceptance and opportunities to give of ourselves. It's good to gather. I'm glad you're here.
In a number of years of illnesses, I am sorry to announce, as indicated in the newsletter, that one of our St. Matt's congregants, Sadie Dawson, died on March 7th. Arrangements have been made with Highland Funeral Home for next Saturday, March 23rd at 1 o'clock, with visitation prior to the funeral at 10 a.m., as well as on the night before. On Friday, March 22nd, there'll be a visitation from 5 to 8 p.m. We hope that you can make it. We remember with care her son Robert, brother-in-law Alex Hodges, and Barbara, her niece. May it be so. Amen. Territorial. And I'm doing the territorial acknowledgement. My apologies. So please join with me at the end. And as we gather here in this holy place, we recognize that for thousands of years, this land has been a sacred gathering place for many peoples of Turtle Island. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on traditional territory of several indigenous nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and that is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. The original nations continue to cry out for justice, and we continue our work for restoring right relations.
As treating people with commitment to listen, learn, and work to right wrongs of the past and present. I invite you to join me for the call to worship today, this fifth Sunday in Lent. Lent is the season for life's contradictions. Faith is strong and faith is weak. Hearts are open and hearts are closed. Joy is present and joy is absent. The call is heard, the call is ignored. The way is hard, the way is easy. Jesus is at home with life's contradictions, bending and straightening, softening and hardening, infilling and deepening. In life's contradictions, God meets us and renews us. We gather to worship, to listen, and to pray.
A group of non-Jews, God-fearing Gentiles, have come to Jerusalem to experience the Jewish festival of Passover. Hearing about Jesus, they find Philip, the only one of Jesus' close followers with a Greek name, and make a request. "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Jesus' words that follow are in part a response to this request. If you wish to see Jesus, the real Jesus, then what you will see and must see includes controversy, confrontation, and violence. This verse can be found carved inside many pulpits in Europe, as it is in some ways a summary of what preaching ideally seeks to do, to bring Jesus to life, all of him, today. So here our reading today is John chapter 12, verses 20 to 33. There were some Greeks in town who had come up to worship at the feast. They approached Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee. "Sir, we wish to see Jesus. Can you help us?" Philip went and told Andrew. Andrew and Philip together told Jesus. Jesus answered, "Time's up. The time has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. If any of you wants to serve me, then follow me. Then you'll be where I am, ready to serve at a moment's notice. The Father will honor and reward anyone who serves me. Right now, I am shaken. And what am I going to say? 'Father, get me out of this?' No. This is why I came in the first place. I'll say, 'Father, put your glory on display.'" A voice came out of the sky. "I have glorified it, and I'll glorify it again." The listening crowd said, "Thunder!" Others said, "An angel spoke to him." Jesus said, "The voice didn't come for me, but for you. At this moment in the world is in crisis. Now this world's ruler will be thrown out, and I, as I am lifted up from the earth, will attract everyone to me and gather them around me." He put it this way to show how he was going to be put to death. In this reading, we hear God's voice. God is still speaking. Thanks be to God.
It's an odd little detail in the setup to a story that otherwise is kind of familiar. And so it captures our attention, beginning with the polite, "Sir." It's a question that the disciples probably fielded innumerable times during Jesus' ministry, people clamoring to be near, to talk to be healed by Jesus. We wish to see Jesus. Yeah, you and everybody else. It's been a pretty jam-packed few days. We're in the immediate aftermath of the raising of Lazarus and of Jesus being anointed with expensive oil by Mary, and then Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem with people waving palms, and just before supper, the supper that they will have together in the evening when Jesus will wash their feet. We have this public scene in the streets of a crowded city as some Greeks approach Philip, the one of Jesus' disciples with a Greek name, and ask, "We wish to see Jesus." The scene has an almost contemporary ring to it. It's what we ask today, what people in our society ask often of us, of the church, to see Jesus, to find Jesus. And I love the way Philip tells Andrew and Andrew tells Jesus. There's something buried in that about how people communicate and the nature of community that crosses centuries. I'll tell you, you tell him, and someone will eventually tell Jesus. Greeks, they're called, spiritual seekers, as best we can tell, not unlike the many, many people today in our society. A pilgrim group of non-Jews, but God-fearing, it seems. They arrive on the scene in Jerusalem to experience Passover, find Philip, and ask if they might be taken to see Jesus. And that's the end of it. We don't hear from the Greeks again. We don't know what happened to them or to their request. Did they meet Jesus? We don't know. But Jesus' words that follow are in part a response to their request. Today, we'd probably describe the Greeks as among those who are spiritual but not religious. It's the increasingly large portion of our own society. It's made up of people who are open to a sense of mystery, who are curious about the divine, who wonder about God and spiritual life, but have not found their quest met with interest or openness by many churches. Like the Greeks, they don't come asking for information about Jesus. They don't inquire about a new members class or ask to join a committee. They don't ask for a statement of beliefs. They simply want to see Jesus, to meet him face to face. Interestingly, they make this request on the way to a formal religious occasion, Passover. But at the moment, what they're intensely curious about is Jesus. And the question quickly becomes, of course, what will they see when they see Jesus, when they find him? Or, as can often be the case, when we are found by him? Well, if you wish to see Jesus, then according to Jesus, this is what you will and must see. Listen carefully, he says. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds on to life, just as it is, destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. If any of you wants to serve me, then follow me. Then you'll be where I am, ready to serve at a moment's notice. And here is the buried tripwire, the constant paradox. Because there was not a single one of Jesus' disciples, friends, or family who wanted to see Jesus crucified, to have him die to really live. Did the Greeks find what they were seeking? I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet that, like pretty much everyone else who had encountered Jesus in person, they were more likely than not taken aback by whatever they heard, left with more questions than answers. But I'd like to believe that they went away with something to think about, that suffering and loss, death and life, letting go and abundance don't appeal to most people, but no life exists without them. And they do lead to fuller, deeper living. Our worship, our community is all about creating an experience of Jesus. It really is that simple. Not to be told about Jesus, but the desire to encounter Jesus through us, here There is no other way to do it. Yet after 2 millennia, it's not as simple as it was for our Greek friends. Today, when we ask to see Jesus, we need to clarify which Jesus. The miracle worker who turned water to wine and raised Lazarus from the dead? The storyteller whose parables both reveal and obscure? The provocateur who debated Roman taxes but ate with Roman tax collectors? Who blessed peacemakers and welcomed a Roman soldier? The renegade rabbi who violated purity laws, broke the Sabbath, embraced the sexually suspicious, ate with outsiders, and profaned Israel's most sacred space, the temple? Or the Jesus of our wishful thinking, or U.S. American political thinking, or otherwise the Jesus in the image of Euro-Christian culture? Which one? Of course, Jesus' words that follow the Greek's request go against all reason, that what simply falls to the ground dead could live again, that letting go of control, of our grip on life, could enable a much fuller life that's then given away. There are times, don't get me wrong, there are times when holding on with fierce determination to life, to our values, to deep commitments is what we should do. But there are times too when to release our hold allows new life to rise up within us and around us. It's the tension in Jesus' words that still resonates so strongly. The relationship between dying and rising, hiddenness and revelation, losing and finding, intention and surrender. It's a paradox, a mystery, and a way into the presence of God who seeks us out the whole way through in the midst of it all. In this 5th week of Lent, we ask, what is the God of paradox and mystery up to in my life, in your life? How did Jesus' words about dying and living sit with us? Is there something you or we sense on this journey that we're invited to let go of in order to enter more fully into God's life, God's way? What do we need for that to happen? And then too, as faith communities, as Bloor Street and as St. Matthew's, Jesus' words and the paradox, the tension at the heart of them land squarely on our uncertainty about the future, our need to let go as churches, to drop to the ground as seed and die in order to live anew and to give new life to others. Which brings me to a difficult question that I ask first and foremost of myself and then of us all. If those Greeks were to show up here today, would their question be heard? Would their search be affirmed? Would they see Jesus? The question is not meant to criticize. I'm in no position to do that, but to stir us to look deeply at our core purpose, at what we choose to measure as an indication of our effectiveness as churches, our life as faith communities. Would we be willing to enter into a searching conversation with people who used to attend but don't, or who we'd love to see come but haven't, in order that we could ask what might make our worship gatherings more meaningful to them? Would we be willing to change or adapt to make room? Would we be willing to entrust our worship planning to people with different visions for how to express spirituality today? how to express spiritual yearning today, that we might all come to see Jesus in and through our Sunday gatherings. Admittedly, in our society, nobody much seems to listen. Politicians, economists, social media are mostly about telling. Deep listening is a rare skill that few have the patience for. But the Greeks' request is open-ended. They want to see without specific outcomes or preconceived notions in mind. And the result is that Jesus speaks the truth that is his very self. The truth we don't really want to see. The truth we wish we could unsee. The truth about God. The truth about ourselves. He says, the hour has come. So while John is not clear about what happens to the Greeks, where do they go anyway? John is very clear about the kind of Jesus they and we will see if we look. Because Jesus immediately looks ahead to the cross. He returns to it again and again. If you want to live, really live, you have to learn how to give your life away. You have to learn how to die. That there is a force more powerful than death, namely the love of God. And because of that, God's love, there's always life right in the middle of death. Why did Jesus die? He died to show us how to live. Absorbing that and finding ways of living that way has taken me my whole life so far, and I'm in no way there yet. And the church has been at this for millennia. We're all still practicing how to live, really live. Every now and then, though, there's a turning point, a tipping point perhaps, a time when, as Jesus says, the hour has come. Amen. The world now is too dangerous and too beautiful for anything but love. May your eyes be so blessed that you see God in everyone, your ears so you hear the cry of the poor. May your hands be so blessed that everything you touch is a sacrament, your lips so you speak nothing but the truth with love. May your feet be so blessed that you run to those who need you, and may your heart be so opened, so set on fire, that your love changes everything. Go in peace. Amen.